The WhatsApp message wasn't meant for me. That's what made it so perfect. And so devastating. I'm Greg Morrison, 34 district manager for 3 Olive Garden locations in suburban Ohio. Not exactly James Bond material, but I know how to spot trouble when it's staring me in the face. And trouble was definitely what I was looking at on my phone screen at 11:47 p.m. on Halloween night. Don't worry, Mom. When he finishes paying off my student loans, I'll dump him. Already found someone better. Love you. The message was from my wife, Alicia. The he was obviously me. The someone better was standing 15 feet away in a Tarzan costume, flexing his biceps for a group of giggling women at Richard's Halloween party. Let me back up. 3 hours earlier, I'd been having what I thought was a decent time at my old college buddy Richard's annual Halloween bash. Alicia looked stunning in her black Catwoman outfit, leather that hugged every curve, mask that made her green eyes pop. I was proud to be her husband, even in my hastily thrown-together vampire costume from CVS. Greg, you look like you raided a teenager's closet, Richard had laughed when we arrived. His wife Nikki swatted his arm playfully. Be nice. At least he tried. Nikki smiled at me. Alicia looks incredible, though. That should have been my first warning. Alicia preened under the attention, but barely acknowledged me. She immediately gravitated toward her best friend Susie, who was also dressed as Catwoman. Twin leather-clad troublemakers whispering in corners. I grabbed a beer and tried to enjoy myself. Richard's parties were usually fun. Good food, decent people, enough alcohol to make everyone's stories interesting. But something felt off tonight. Alicia kept disappearing, always with Susie in tow. When I'd ask where she'd been, she'd give me vague answers. Just talking to people, Greg. Relax. Around 10 o'clock, I noticed her talking intensely with Dominic Russo, a guy I barely knew. He worked at the Ford plant, spent most of his free time at the gym, and had the kind of muscles that made other men feel inadequate. Tonight, he was practically naked, except for a Tarzan loincloth that left nothing to the imagination. I watched them from across the room. Alicia was laughing at something he said, touching his arm. The touch lingered too long. Way too long. You okay, man? John Martinez, another old friend, appeared beside me with 2 fresh beers. Yeah, just watching my wife flirt with Tarzan over there. John glanced over and grimaced. Ouch. Want me to go break it up? No, I'm being paranoid. But I wasn't. My gut was screaming that something was wrong. 20 minutes later, I found them in Richard's kitchen. Dominic had Alicia pressed against the counter, whispering in her ear. She was giggling like a teenager. When she saw me, she jumped back like she'd been electrocuted. Greg! There you are. Dominic was just telling me about his new workout routine. At midnight? In the kitchen? How fascinating. The sarcasm dripped from my voice. Dominic straightened up, all 6'2" of him. Just making conversation, man. No harm in that. Right. Well, conversation time's over. Alicia, we should head home. The babysitter's waiting. Actually, I'm having fun. Can't we stay a little longer? I stared at my wife. In 8 years of marriage, she'd never wanted to extend a party when we had the kids to think about. Something was definitely wrong. The babysitter, Alicia, remember? Our children? She rolled her eyes. Fine. Let me just say goodbye to everyone. That's when my phone buzzed with the message that changed everything. Alicia had been texting her mother but somehow sent it to me instead. The words hit me like a physical blow. Don't worry, Mom. When he finishes paying off my student loans, I'll dump him. Already found someone better. I stood there in Richard's kitchen, staring at the screen while my world collapsed. Alicia was using me. Had been using me for who knows how long, and she already had my replacement picked out. I looked up. Dominic was still there, now openly smirking. Did he know about the message? About her plan? Everything okay, Greg? Alicia asked, but she wasn't really paying attention. She was looking at Dominic again. Just peachy, I managed. Actually, you know what? You stay, have fun. I'll get a ride with John. Greg, don't be dramatic. But I was already walking away, phone in hand, evidence of her betrayal burning in my palm. Behind me, I heard Dominic laugh, low and satisfied. The sound followed me all the way to the door. Chapter 2. The Party from Hell. I should have left. Should have walked out of that party, gone home, and confronted Alicia in private like a mature adult. Instead, I did something stupid. I stayed and watched. John gave me a ride around the block, but I had him drop me back at Richard's house. I forgot something, I lied. What I really forgot was my dignity, but I was about to lose a lot more than that. I slipped back into the party through the back door. The place was still packed, music thumping, people getting progressively drunker. I found a corner where I could observe without being obvious about it. Alicia and Dominic weren't even trying to hide it anymore. They were dancing, if you could call it dancing. Susie was nearby, playing lookout and giggling with some other women. I caught fragments of their conversation. So obvious about it. Poor Greg has no idea. She's been planning this for months. Months. My wife had been planning to leave me for months, and her best friend was helping orchestrate it. The humiliation burned in my chest like acid. I pulled out my phone and took a few photos. Not for any grand plan. I wasn't thinking that far ahead. Just evidence that this was really happening, that I wasn't losing my mind. Around midnight, things got worse. Someone had started a drinking game in the living room, and Dominic was holding court like some kind of muscle-bound king. Alicia was perched on the arm of his chair, giggling at his stupid jokes. So this guy at the gym, Dominic was saying, thinks he can bench more than me, right? So I'm like, buddy, you sure about that? And this fool actually challenges me to a contest. The crowd was eating it up. Even some of the guys were impressed by his gym stories. I wanted to vomit. What happened? Alicia asked, gazing at him like he was some kind of hero. Crushed him. 350, no problem. Guy couldn't even get 220 off his chest. That's so impressive, Alicia cooed. Greg can barely lift the groceries. The room erupted in laughter. My wife had just publicly emasculated me to impress her boyfriend. The boyfriend she was planning to leave me for once, my usefulness ran out. Something snapped inside me. I stood up from my corner and walked into the circle. Actually, Alicia, I can lift quite a bit, including the weight of your $30,000 in student loans that I've been paying off. The laughter died. Everyone turned to stare at me. Alicia's face went white behind her cat mask. Greg, what are you... Or how about the weight of your credit card debt, the car payments, the mortgage you've never contributed a dime to? Dude, maybe you should... Dominic started to stand. Sit down, Tarzan. I'm not talking to you yet. The room was dead silent now. Richard appeared at my elbow. Greg, buddy, maybe we should... I pulled out my phone and held up the screen. Or maybe we should talk about this message my loving wife sent me by accident tonight. I read it aloud, every word. The whole room heard how she was planning to dump me once I finished paying her debts, how she'd already found someone better. Alicia lunged for my phone, but I was ready for her. Greg, stop it! You're embarrassing yourself. I'm embarrassing myself. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Lady, you just spent the last 2 hours dry-humping Conan the Barbarian in front of all our friends, and I'm the one embarrassing myself? Dominic finally stood up, all that gym muscle rippling. Watch your mouth, man. Or what? You'll beat me up? In front of everyone? That'll really impress my wife. Oh, wait. She's already impressed, isn't she? I turned to face him fully. I might not have been built like a bodybuilder, but I wasn't soft either. 8 years of managing restaurants meant dealing with drunk customers, angry employees, and the occasional kitchen fight. I knew how to handle myself. You know what, Dominic? You can have her, but here's the thing. She's broke. All those loans she needs someone to pay? That's going to be your job now. Hope your factory paycheck can handle it. Greg, please. Alicia was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. Please what? Please don't tell everyone what you've been planning. Please don't ruin your little scheme. I looked around the room at all the shocked faces. Too late for that. Dominic stepped closer, trying to intimidate me. You need to shut up and walk away. Actually, I need to ask you something first. How long have you been sleeping with my wife? The question hung in the air like a bomb. Dominic's face went red. We haven't. Right. So all this touching and grinding and whispering is just friendly conversation. Got it. It's not what you think, Alicia started. It's exactly what I think, I shouted. You've been cheating on me, planning to leave me, and using me to pay your bills while you do it. That's when Dominic made his mistake. He put his hand on my chest and shoved me backward. Don't talk to her like that. I stumbled, but didn't fall. When I looked up, something cold and calculating had replaced the hurt and anger. Did you just put your hands on me? Greg! Richard tried to intervene. I ignored him. My focus was entirely on Dominic now. You're sleeping with my wife, and now you're assaulting me? In front of witnesses? I barely touched you. I moved faster than he expected, one quick jab to his solar plexus, followed by an uppercut that caught him under the chin. Not enough to seriously hurt him, but enough to send him stumbling backward into the coffee table. The room exploded. People were screaming. Someone was calling 911, and Alicia was shrieking at me to stop. But I was done. Done with the lies, the humiliation, the betrayal. I walked over to where Dominic was getting back to his feet, rubbing his jaw. Here's how this is going to work, Tarzan. You want my wife? Take her. But you're going to take her debts too. All of them. Because as of tomorrow, I'm filing for divorce, and she's going to need a new sugar daddy. I turned to Alicia. And you, sweetheart, can explain to your mother why you won't be dumping me after all. I'm dumping you first. I headed for the door, but stopped and turned back one more time. Oh, and Dominic? Next time you want to fight someone, make sure they didn't box in college. Just a friendly tip. Then I walked out into the cold October night, leaving my marriage and my old life behind. The real revenge was just getting started. Chapter 3. The Plan. 3 days later, I was sitting in my new apartment, a furnished one-bedroom across town, planning the systematic destruction of my wife's life. It sounds harsh when I put it like that, but she'd started this war. I was just going to finish it. The divorce papers were already filed. My lawyer, Janet Chen, was a shark in a business suit who specialized in cases involving financial infidelity. When I showed her Alicia's message and explained how she'd been using me as a personal ATM while planning her exit strategy, Janet's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. This is good, Greg. Really good. With this evidence, we can argue that the marriage was fraudulent from the start. She married you under false pretenses, used you for financial support while planning to leave. Ohio courts don't look kindly on that kind of behavior. But legal victory wasn't enough. I wanted Alicia to feel the same humiliation she'd put me through, the same public embarrassment, the same crushing realization that everything she thought she had was built on lies. I started with research. Amazing what you can find out about people when you put your mind to it. Alicia worked as a marketing coordinator for a small nonprofit downtown. Her boss, Margaret Williams, was a stern woman in her 60s who took a dim view of personal drama affecting workplace performance. Dominic was even easier. The Ford plant where he worked had strict policies about employee conduct, especially anything that might reflect poorly on the company. They were particularly sensitive about social media and public incidents since a harassment scandal 2 years ago. Then there was Susie, Alicia's partner in crime. She was married to a guy named Tom, who traveled for work, and had no idea his wife was helping orchestrate affairs. Susie worked part-time at an upscale boutique in the mall, the kind of place where reputation mattered. I spent the weekend putting together what I called the portfolio. Screenshots, photos, documented evidence of everything that had happened, not just the party incident, but months of suspicious behavior I'd been too trusting to investigate before. Credit card statements showing expensive dinners I hadn't been invited to. Hotel charges on days when Alicia claimed to be visiting her sister. Text messages between her and Susie that I'd never paid attention to before, but now read like a conspiracy. Monday morning, I started making calls. Margaret Williams' office. This is Sarah. Hi, Sarah. This is Greg Morrison. I'm calling about my wife, Alicia Morrison, who works there. I need to speak with Margaret about a situation that might affect her work performance. I'm sorry, Mr. Morrison, but we can't discuss employee matters with family members without... Tell Margaret it's about the photos from Saturday night's party. She'll want to see them before they end up on social media. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in Margaret's office, showing her the pictures of Alicia grinding against Dominic while still wearing her wedding ring. This is deeply troubling, Mr. Morrison. Alicia represents our organization at community events. This kind of behavior... I understand completely. I just thought you should know before it becomes public knowledge. I'm filing for divorce, and these photos will likely come up in court proceedings. Margaret's face was grim. I appreciate you bringing this to my attention. We'll handle it internally. Next stop, the Ford plant. I couldn't get inside, but I didn't need to. I waited in the parking lot until shift change, then approached Dominic's supervisor, a guy named Mike who I recognized from the party. Hey, Mike, right? We met at Richard's Halloween party. I'm Greg Morrison. Mike's face went uncomfortable. Oh, hey, Greg. Look, about what happened, that's actually what I wanted to talk about. Dominic assaulted me that night. I have witnesses. Now, I'm not pressing charges, yet, but I thought his employer should know that one of their workers is going around starting fights at public events. Jesus, Greg, I don't know what to say. Dominic's a good worker, but if he's getting into fights... I pulled out my phone and showed him the video someone had taken of our confrontation. Here's the assault. Clear as day. Like I said, I'm not pressing charges right now, but if this video ends up on YouTube or Facebook... Mike watched the video twice, his expression getting darker. I'll talk to HR. We can't have employees representing the company this way. I appreciate that, Mike. I really do. The boutique where Susie worked was almost too easy. I walked in Tuesday afternoon and asked to speak with the manager. When she appeared, a perfectly put-together woman named Diana, I explained that I was concerned about one of her employees. Susie Henderson has been helping my wife conduct an extramarital affair. I have documentation of her involvement in planning secret meetings, covering for my wife's lies, and actively encouraging the destruction of my marriage. I thought you should know, since she represents your store to customers. Diana's professional smile faltered. That's a very serious accusation, Mr. Morrison. It is, and it's all documented. I handed her a folder. Text messages, photos, witness statements. Susie has been instrumental in this affair. Now, what people do in their private lives is their business. But when it involves deliberate deception and fraud, my wife has been using me to pay her debts while planning to leave me for another man. It speaks to character. Diana flipped through the folder, her expression growing more troubled with each page. I'll need to review this thoroughly. Of course. Take your time. By Wednesday, the dominoes were starting to fall. Alicia called me, hysterical. Greg, what did you do? Margaret called me into her office and said my personal conduct was under review. They're talking about putting me on administrative leave. Gee, that's terrible. Maybe you shouldn't have been publicly making out with your boyfriend while representing your employer. It wasn't like that. We were just dancing. Right. Just like you were just talking about dumping me once I finished paying your loans. Greg, please. I made a mistake. Can't we work this out? Sure, Alicia. Here's how we work it out. You sign the divorce papers without contesting anything, you take responsibility for all your own debts, and maybe I don't release that video of you and Dominic to every social media platform in town. You wouldn't. Try me. She hung up. 5 minutes later, Dominic called. What did you tell my supervisor? The truth. That you assaulted me at a party while you were having an affair with my wife. Did I leave anything out? I'm going to... You're going to what, Dominic? Threaten me over the phone? That would be really stupid, especially since I'm recording this call. The line went quiet. Here's the thing, Tarzan. You wanted to play games with my marriage. Now you get to play games with the consequences. How's that working out for you? He hung up too. Thursday brought the call I'd been waiting for. Tom Henderson, Susie's husband, had returned from his business trip to find his wife in tears and his marriage imploding. Greg, this is Tom Henderson. I think we need to talk. I think we do too, Tom. How much do you know? Everything. Susie broke down and confessed the whole thing. The affair, the planning, all of it. I had no idea. I'm sorry, Tom. I really am. You didn't deserve this any more than I did. What are you going to do now? I looked out the window of my apartment at the gray November sky. I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly who they really are. And then I'm going to move on with my life. Can I help? That surprised me. What do you mean? I mean, they humiliated both of us, made us look like fools. Maybe it's time they got a taste of their own medicine. I smiled for the first time in days. Tom, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. The final phase of my plan was about to begin.